Which of the following is not true? A. A raccoon broke into a liquor store and passed out drunk in the bathroom. B. You can tell the age of a fish by counting scales like you count tree rings. Or C. African gray parrots live to 100 years old. There are 2 truths and 1 lie. Keep listening to Formosa Fauna to find out which one is untrue. Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can become smarter than all of your friends. Hello, I'm Tristan Hildebrand, the voice of Formosa Fauna. I love animals and I love talking about them. Today we're going to talk about Taiwan being ahead of the new whale shark trade ban, the crocodile hunter Steve Irwin, our deer farms zoos, and the drunk raccoon rampage. Let's dive right in. Taiwan is gearing up for a new international ban on the trade of whale sharks, one of the ocean's most iconic gentle giants. This decision follows an agreement reached at the 20th Conference of the Parties to CITES, CITES, that's the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, where delegates from over 160 countries come together to tackle the threats facing vulnerable wildlife species. At this meeting in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, representatives unanimously agreed to take whale sharks off of the list that allowed regulated trade and place them into a category that effectively prohibits international commerce of this species. It is part of the move driven by growing concerns about declining populations and the risks posed by fishing and global trade. On home shores, Taiwan's Ocean Conservation Administration has welcomed the ban, pointing out that whale sharks, along with manta rays, have already been protected under the country's Wildlife Conservation Act since 2020. Under that law, harming or hunting these animals carries penalties that include up to 5 years in prison and fines of up to 1.5 million NT dollars or 48,000 US dollars. However, legal protection on paper is only part of the story. Taiwan's Ocean Conservation Administration, the OCA, says one of the biggest threats to the whale sharks is being caught unintentionally as a bycatch when fishing in their natural habitats. To help address that, the agency has set up a communication network where fishers can report whale shark encounters in real time, giving crews a chance to release them safely back into the ocean. Over the past few years, this notification system has led to dozens of whale sharks being spotted and freed. With the new international trade ban now in place, conservationists believe this majestic species may have a better shot at thriving for generations to come. Our person of the day is the crocodile hunter. The crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin, an Australian zoologist and TV personality. The Crocodile Hunter was the title of the very famous documentary series that Irwin hosted with his wife Terry. Irwin quickly became a household name thanks to his enthusiastic and charismatic nature on screen, as well as his passion for reptiles. Alongside his wife, Steve established the Wildlife Warriors Worldwide and International Crocodile Rescue. He used much of his earnings to buy land for conservation and even discovered a new turtle species along his journey. Actually, his honeymoon with his wife Terry involved filming croc catching, which became the first episode of The Crocodile Hunter. Steve Irwin even voiced a character in the famous animated movie Happy Feet. And if you've ever heard the catchphrase, "Crikey," that's thanks to Steve Irwin. While Irwin lacked a strong formal education, and most of his knowledge came from working at the family's Queensland Reptile and Fauna Park, later renamed to Australia Zoo, the University of Queensland planned to award him an honorary doctorate for his global impact on conservation, a recognition he never received due to his untimely death in 2006 after being attacked by a stingray near Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Sci Journal still lists Irwin as number 19 on their famous animal scientists list. Check back in next week to hear who is number 18. While deer farms are popular in Taiwan, this story takes us all the way to the United Kingdom, where the owner of a small reindeer attraction in southwest England says her business could be forced to shut its doors after local authorities told her she may need to have an entirely different license to keep operating. Sarah Sutton, who has run the Somerset Reindeer Ranch for the past 12 years, says Somerset Council recently informed her that she must apply for a zoo license. Without it, she would only be allowed to open to the public for 6 days a year, a sharp change from the year-round access she currently relies on. Sutton says the decision makes little sense. She describes reindeer as calm, domesticated animals and argues that they are being unfairly reclassified as wild. The ranch, located near Yeovil in the village of Chilthorne Domer, has long operated under an animal exhibition license, hosting school visits as well as popular meet and feed experiences. But following a review, the council concluded that the attraction now falls under zoo licensing rules, unless it drastically reduces its public opening days. For Sutton, she says that's not a viable option. She says public visits are essential to keeping the herd and the business afloat. Applying for a zoo license, she argues, would bring major costs and requirements designed for a large-scale operation like a larger zoo, not a small family-run reindeer farm. Among the changes she fears are new infrastructure demands and even the need to store licensed firearms, which she says would fundamentally alter how the ranch operates. The issue has now reached their parliament. Liberal Democrat MP Sarah Dyke, who represents Glastonbury and Somerton, has raised concerns and introduced a bill calling for clearer rules around reindeer attractions. Dyke argues that treating reindeer farms like zoos is nonsensical and is pushing for reindeer to be officially classified as domesticated animals. She says the financial burden of a zoo license could reach around about $134,000, a cost she believes is unreasonable for small businesses. Somerset Council says it understands that applying for a zoo license can be a lengthy and expensive process and has confirmed that this year's Christmas reindeer events can go ahead as planned. The council also says that it will not take enforcement action as long as the owners are willing to resolve the licensing issues. The UK's Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, or DEFRA, has stated that responsibility for zoo licenses ultimately rests with local authorities, leaving the future of the Somerset Reindeer Ranch uncertain for now. What do you think? Should these be classified as zoos, potentially offering more protection for animals and more regulations for the operators, or should they stay as family businesses? And should these reindeer be classified as domesticated to keep them so? Send me an email with your thoughts by writing to tristan@rti.org.tw. That is tristan@rti.org.tw. I look forward to hearing from you. Just like counting rings on a tree, biologists can figure out a fish's age by examining growth patterns that build up over time in parts of the fish's body. This kind of information helps fishery managers understand things like how long fish live, when they started spawning, and how fast they grow, all of which are critical for healthy, sustainable fisheries, according to Michigan State University. For many fish, especially those with clear, readable scales, scientists use scales as their main tool to estimate the age. A fish's scales grow outward in concentric rings. During warmer months, when food is plentiful, growth is rapid and the rings are wide. During slower growth periods, usually in colder months, the rings are narrow. Each wide band of growth, followed by a narrower band, known as an annulus, is usually representative of 1 year of life. By counting these annuli under magnification, researchers can estimate how old the fish really is. To do this well, technicians typically remove about 10 scales from a standardized spot on the fish so they can choose the best ones later. Then they store them carefully with details like species, location, date, and fish size. They'll use a microfiche reader or projector to magnify the scale so the rings can be counted clearly, similar to inspecting tree rings. This method is similar to aging a tree by its rings, and in fact, a bluegill with 4 distinct wide growth rings would be considered about 4 years old. Not all fish have suitable scales though, like catfish, which have very tiny or no scales at all. In those cases, scientists rely on other hard structures that grow rings, like spines, vertebrae, and otoliths, which are small ear bones. These internal parts are cut into thin slices so the rings, much like those in scales, can be seen under a microscope after staining to improve contrast. Knowing age helps researchers track growth rates and overall health of fish populations, which supports fishing regulations, conservation efforts, and understanding how environmental changes affect aquatic life and these fish's lifespans. In Telford, England, a one-eyed, flightless African grey parrot named Monica has been given a specially adapted aviary at Who Zoo to help her thrive. Monica, who lost an eye earlier this year, has lived at the zoo for several years but faces unique challenges. She was previously pinioned by former owners, meaning her wings were clipped and she cannot fly. The zoo wanted to create a space that meets her needs while keeping her close to her feathered friends. Her new home features low-level perches and even a little cat flap so she can move in and out freely while staying warm and comfortable. Keeper Sarah Holt explained that the design allows Monica to explore safely, while still enjoying the company of the rest of her flock. The aviary also includes deep bark mulch on the floor, encouraging natural behaviors like scratching, digging, and foraging. The zoo carefully arranged food and water at ground level for Monica, while other parrots feed from higher perches, making the space functional for every bird in the flock. The aviary also gives the group more room to fly and play, creating an enriched environment that benefits all of the feathery residents. Zoo owner Will Durrell said Monica has been part of the family at Who Zoo for years and called her an incredible little character. He added that the new aviary feels like a well-deserved early Christmas gift for Monica. African gray parrots are popular pets in Taiwan, known mostly for their impressive intelligence and talking ability. They can cost anywhere from $600 to about $1,000 here in Taiwan. However, while they do have a lifespan of about 23 years in the wild, they can live anywhere from 40 to 60 and even up to 80 years old in captivity, meaning they have a very good chance of outliving their human companions. When we talk about commitment before adopting a pet, it's usually a 20 year or less, maybe 10 to 20 year commitment, which is already a very long time. I don't see how anyone in their right mind could realistically commit to 40 to 80 years. You would have to be like 18 to 22 to be able to really commit. And at that point, you're too young to make such a lifelong commitment to this being. So as a personal recommendation, even though they're smart, they're adorable, and they can talk a little bit, I would not suggest them as a pet for anyone. Truly, anyone. I think it's kind of cruel to set them up for failure and not know where their next home might be, Unless there's one condition I think I would accept it, which is if you adopt an adult African gray parrot, assuming that would be coming from a household where maybe the previous owner passed away or could no longer take the pet, right? In that case, I think it'd be great. But if you're going out to buy new ones, just come on. Oh, I can't, because nobody in their right minds, even in the best of health, could make such a long commitment. You're about to leave the house when your dog starts pacing, whining, or trying to block the door. Or even worse, you come home to the couch ripped open and the stuffing all over the floor. What may look like bad behavior or even cute, clingy behavior could be a sign of something much more serious. Well, just more serious, which is separation anxiety. Separation anxiety is a condition where a dog becomes upset simply because they're apart from their guardian, separated. It's more than just chewing a shoe or barking, though. The ASPCA says dogs with separation anxiety may pace, howl, drool, or try to escape, sometimes in ways that can injure themselves or damage your home. These behaviors typically occur soon after you leave and aren't usually seen when you're around. So, think of all the things they do, naughty things they do, when you're away. While most people get a dog because they want to feel loved by a dog, separation anxiety is a sign of true emotional distress in a dog, and it should still be addressed. Rest assured, your dog will still be just as clingy, needy, and loving, even without the additional separation-induced stress. Separation anxiety often shows up after a significant change in a dog's life, like a move, a new schedule, or being rehomed from a shelter. Because of this, even seemingly small shifts in a routine can trigger intense anxiety in some dogs. And it's important to differentiate separation anxiety from other issues like incomplete house training, marking, or boredom, which can look similar but have a very different cause and solution. Helping a dog with separation anxiety isn't about punishment, though, if you're going to treat it. In fact, scolding can just make the problem worse. Instead, the goal is to teach your dog to feel calm and comfortable when alone. For mild cases, this might mean building positive associations with alone time using things your dog loves, like puzzle toys or treats. For more severe anxiety, gradual desensitization, starting with very short absences and slowly increasing time apart, combined with professional guidance from a behaviorist or certified trainer, can make a big difference. It also helps to rethink how we handle goodbyes and reunions. Perhaps it would be better to keep departures low-key and quiet, rather than giving a bunch of goodbyes and I'll see you later and oh, you're such a good boy or girl. You maybe just slip out and your dog doesn't really notice you're gone until you're about to come back home. Hopefully. For some dogs, extra exercise before you leave or enriching activities while you're gone can help them burn off nervous energy. And in certain situations, medications prescribed by a vet may support behavior modification efforts. What's clear is that with patience, consistent routines, and the right strategies, many dogs can learn to manage their separation anxiety and feel more secure when left on their own. This segment of the show will teach listeners just like you how to train dogs. Starting with the basics, tune in each episode and you'll eventually be able to do just about anything as far as training goes. For this episode, we refer to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or ASPCA's, article on separation anxiety. I don't currently live with dogs, but find the knowledge widely applicable as I grew up with dogs, know people with dogs, and run into dogs on my way home in Taiwan every day. So, if you're like me, well, just stick around. There's no telling when exactly these tips may come in handy. To end the episode on somewhat of an entertaining note, let me tell you a story. Just a couple weeks ago, a masked burglar broke into a closed liquor store in Virginia, hitting the bottom shelf where the scotch and whiskey were stored. Bottles were smashed, a ceiling tile collapsed, and alcohol pooled on the floor, as reported by NBC News. That Saturday morning, hours after the crime was committed, an employee showed up to work and found the culprit passed out drunk on the bathroom floor. The reason we're bringing this up on an animal-centric podcast is because that masked burglar, that culprit, is a raccoon. The Hanover County Animal Protection and Shelter confirmed the raccoon sobered up after a few hours of sleep and thankfully showed no signs of injury. He was released safely back into the wild. Making it to the end of an episode makes you a Formosa Fauna friend. Thank you for tuning in, friend. See you next week for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.